Coffee's in reach.
Hi, Sandy. I want to introduce you, Sandra Harrick, my wonderful friend and beautiful Reverend spiritual advisor, and I just love her very much. I thought I would share the beauty of knowing Sandy,
Your
with
homie.
my
I hear.
homie. She's literally gotten me through some dark times, so. I thought it would be great to talk about the unquantifiable feminism, feminine, what that is. There's two pictures. There's a picture painted by a world that's obviously controlled and, for the most part, driven forth by men. And there's a language built by them to describe themselves and their world. And there's this feminine idea that man has created that I think has become what a lot of people around the world consider feminine. Giving birth, having children, ancient old ideas of what the function, the physical function of a woman, feminine, with the genitalia and all, is. But then there's another aspect to femininity brought forth by a wonderful mind, C.G. Jung, and a bunch of alchemists. And their idea of feminine comes from the ancient Greek, the wonderful, they're called sophists, these teachers. Before, back in the day, women were really, really good at getting in touch with spirit. And so there were oracles in Egypt and throughout Greece, and the feminine was walked to when you wanted to communicate with spirit and higher consciousness. So woman was a vehicle for that, for the men.
Yeah.
The way that C.G. Jung describes it is the anima is the feminine and the animus is the masculine. And this is a collective consciousness. This is archetypes that float around that have a certain energy that either makes them masculine or feminine. In Eastern philosophies, the yin and yang, and many cultures around the world have their own idea of what this is. Psychologically, to try to put it in some sort of container and understand it, the feminine is creative and in touch with the unknown. The feminine is the dark, the negative, because all matter springs forth from it, and she's considered the great mother. I'm just talking about the energy, the psychology of it. And then the masculine is the do it, the get it done, the master, the willpower, the sun. So the sun and moon have had these archetypical ideas, and from there to our logical reasoning age, we've made it more material. What the role of a woman is and what the role of a man is to protect and to create and to generate and to produce in the physical world. The woman to generate life, to nurture, to care for. Mankind has even gone as far as to dub Mother Nature a woman, a feminine energy. And so there's the physical aspect of it. Men are obviously stronger physically. Their prowess is in their ability to carry more weight, to fight. Their testosterone enhances their ability to wage wars and to battle and protect. the feminine has been considered the caretaker of the home, the one who generates a safe space for the man to be at ease, right? And now we're diving into the psychology of masculine and feminine, perpetuated down to the 1950s, where the woman's over in the kitchen and she can't go to work because that's a man's job. And now it's like, so we're in today's day and age, and women protesting the streets, fighting for their rights around the world after Trump gets elected. And we see this idea of femininity wanting to come out and take charge of its own life because it hasn't felt taken care of by the masculine side of society. It felt as if it were being taken advantage of. I mean, sex trade is one of the biggest crimes. I think it's the second biggest, greatest crime in the world.
In this day and age, can you imagine?
And the grand majority of those people being traded for sex are women. I mean, the numbers are staggering. Mother Nature isn't being cared for. She isn't being nurtured. The nurturing aspect of the consciousness of society today has really neglected animals and what they mean to maintaining Mother Nature in a form where she could keep feeding us.
You're being very polite, let me say.
Yes, I'm trying to be polite because there are wonderful things. You and I are talking on a machine. Right. You could be somewhere across in another part of the world, completely thousands of miles away from me, and I can speak to you without using telepathy, the old-fashioned style.
But we do it all the time.
Yes, but this is another side. This is the material world. Now you can fly different places. There's less crime on the planet than there ever has been before. Less people do die compared to the amount of people who were on the earth 100 years ago and the people that are on the earth today. More people used to die at a younger age back then because our healthcare system didn't exist. So there's a lot of beautiful things that mankind has created in this collaboration between feminine and masculine. So I'm not going to deny that at all. I just want to talk about this kind of yearning that has come for the feminine to establish herself as a ruler and a controller of her own life in today's day and age, our modern era, and how you get, when going out into the world, you get a lot of pushback on that, because I think there's a misunderstanding on what that is, how valuable it is, what the value to that is in society, what feminine means. I think a lot of women don't know. I'm one of them. You've battled with me. I mean, we've had sessions on and off where we're literally, I'm fighting my own masculine side just to let my feminine have a voice, which sounds like a lot of the rooms that I'm in when I'm trying to get my voice heard at work.
And you're playing your feminine side as it is feeling brave enough to even present itself. That's part of the healing. So I guess I'm going to step in here because you're magnificent. First and foremost, I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you on several levels. First, I want to say thank you for being a champion right now in this day and age for the injustice to the feminine and the imbalance to the male and the female, and to bring a stabilization to it, Michelle. Because you do have such a quantum reality and physicality out of who you are in the masculine dynamic. And yet you have such a projection in your work as a feminine, as the female, as this incredible sexuality that can still kick ass, rumble in the hood, and get the job done. And the crowd goes wild. So the archetype of who you are, you have been imprinting the world with literally for 20 years. And where you are now is literally, and here come the goosebumps on my goosebumps, and hello everybody, I arc energy at the speed of light.
Yes, so, you do.
So you'll see this with me. And right now you're in that treachery of how does the feminine get to stand up without looking like she's denying the incredible respect that she has for what the masculine has done as a job, the task, to be the survivor inside her that has done the job of someone's not taking care of you as an infant. Someone's not taking care of the reality. And we as the child, the feminine child, had to figure out, whoa, this isn't safe. Something else has to happen. And you are a perfect example of championing that space inside you. Here comes the shivers of, I got this. I'll see you later. You go over there, be safe. And what strikes me so profound, and that is what's going on right now in the collective of the feminine, is that the voices of so many of the women that I included said, go over here, little girl. I'll come back for you. I got this.
Yeah, your panther comes out, Sandy, doesn't it? I love that.
Yes. And it is now saying, hey, I have been learning. I do want to come out, and we have to have a conversation with the survivor, that masculine, the survivor, to say, you can trust me. I'm not going to take your place. I will not replace or minimize or damn you for being the counter that took care of me, but I want to collaborate with you now. I want to weave together. I want that golden thread for you to give me the space to present myself, come back, because I have matured in the safety of your doings, of all this masculine calculation and activity that gave me the space to stay safe. And I'm not feeble. And the masculine will question, but you were feeble. No, I was enabled, I was disabled, I was dismembered, I was dismissed, I was dominated, I was eliminated, I was tortured, I was humiliated.
This is the energy of the feminine within, right?
Exactly. And so there's that beauty of right now where the voice is speaking. I mean, I was right there in downtown New York City going to art school, 1965, as Vietnam was coming in. I was 17 years old. And there's that place of wisdom where that very year, exactly what you were talking about, if you were a slut, you wore high heels. If you were a whore, you had a, you could, everything got shown. If you were a good wife, you wore an apron. And if you were desperate, you made certain you went to college to get an education. No, you went to college to get a man.
Wow.
And then if you had an education, you were told it didn't count anymore because you could not present your intelligence to demean the male.
Yeah.
In what they were given as an identity, and God bless them.
RGB, she beat that.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's that place where, we have given in our crusade to be feeble or found or desired, because the human species is that thing where our hormones do crave to procreate, which is way more severe than anything we can think about. Like, maybe he ain't handsome, maybe she's beautiful, maybe I don't want to touch that. Why am I even attracted? What makes me even want, or why am I being raped, or what do I want to get laid? So,
wow.
All those things come up out of the need of that feral, vicious survivor that says, life will continue, bitch, and you're at the mercy of serving life.
Yeah.
And
that's a big one for women.
That's what we are catering.
And what about when the feminine comes in heavy for the man, and he's shunned by society and told to suppress it?
Exactly. It depends on the man, because not all men are threatened, but they are threatened by men if they don't threaten the femininity. So in the collective, they have to almost go into agreement, and then depending on the privacy of, can I respect my woman? And that's kind of like where religion came in and said, oh, I got it. I can make her a Madonna. I can be with the feminine as long as, I think everybody forgot, because I certainly did as a child, that somebody had sex to have a baby.
Yeah.
You know, how did all these kids get here? You know, I'm one of 7. So it's like, you know, and then when you find out they did what? And there's that place where the masculine, I'm getting excited. There's that place where the masculine, and I want to be very respectful. First of all, I want everybody to know this is not judgment, nor is this criticism. This is observation. This is my karma speaking. This is my collective being in the middle of my life when the turn of society gave me as a woman the option to either look at the history of the 50s and the 40s and know that if I wasn't Rosie the Riveter, then I was the survivor because I was born 47. So I'm the child that was conceived out of the celebration of the world came to peace again. World War II was over. Everybody was promised a home, was promised a marriage, was promised and everybody tucked in and pretended that didn't happen. And so they made love and the baby boom happened. I'm going to start belching. When I move through energy, I belch. It's not me. I haven't had a lot of food.
Don't worry. I'm used to it. They're probably not.
Thank you. You got my back.
Mm-hmm.
So at that moment, the feminine had the opportunity to come out of her apron, out of her high heels, out of the stereotypical aspect of what it was mandatory to be. And that was your husband's servant, your children's slave, even in the name of Betty Crocker. And I am not someone that could accommodate that. And a lot of women did. And they were in the era of being honored with the activity and graced by the gift that they were chosen, that they were impregnated, that they were gifted with children, that God blessed them, and they had a family, and they would dote on them. And that was sufficient in many, many ways, and it was ideal. One of the great things was to be able to know that in our society, the angst of our turbulence came when, for my generation, Vietnam came, and we realized that the great fathers were lying. The injustice to our men at war was no longer honorable, and it pissed us off. As women, we were no longer looking at our men as, oh, honey, go to war, fight for us, come home, keep me safe. It was like, why are they selling you out? Where are you going? And that feminine energy started to discern, am I being obedient? Am I being wise? Am I being thoughtful? Am I awake? Do I get to say something about my child doesn't get to go to war? Or I don't want you to take my child as a sacrifice? And there's that place where, as a woman, I am in high school watching my peers, the young, vital, sperm happy men, go off to war and think that that was the only way that they could identify as masculine, to bring honor to the family. And what happened to the renegade that said, I'm going to Canada? Was that masculine, or was that the coward? It was actually masculine intelligence finally able to run and not be a deserter, but to be a redefiner of what part of the male do I choose to be a part to bring peace rather than the arrogance of domination, slaying, and war.
And power.
For the few who are making money off of my blood.
Yeah.
All war, in all due respect, is somebody's making money off of somebody else's blood. And the salesmanship of that from the masculine, and the necessity of, you got to take care of honey and the kids and make the little woman safe, that's quite a bill of sales.
Yeah.
And we, as the feminine, did invest in making the man kind of the beast.
Yeah.
Go do it, babe. And yet we forget that in the beauty or the hardship of being the feminine, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you're going to have a baby. It doesn't mean it comes full term. It doesn't mean that we understand what is happening to our body as we are the vessel. And that as we are the vessel, we are cherished, and yet we're annihilated with this distortion that says we have to provide the planet with the next generation. So we as the feminine have to be obedient on some level to the idea of conception, to the idea and desire to have an infant, to the willingness to sacrifice our identity so another could have an identity. And that is very feminine. That is very female. And the grace, the potency of those hormones, that if the snaps work, postpartum is very different than the bliss of, oh, baby, give me that baby. And is the willingness to know that in that moment you are the life force for a life force. And it is also the duality where the male in the negative would look at, those breasts belong to me. Why is that baby got them?
They do get neglected, don't they? After a baby.
The woman starts saying, listen, I've been working all day long. These have been busy. They don't come out for nobody no more. And the male then either understands what the sacrifice is, that for them to have a son or a daughter they can protect, that they actually have to sacrifice the wife to have these. That's mind-boggling. And it makes for chaos, because the ego, that male ego, wants when it wants it. And in the male, when it becomes feminine, when it has that comprehension of, wait a second, this is more than my desire. This is where the empath in a man says, I am willing to embrace this, be tender, precious, provide, and protect, and not demean, deny, or diminish.
There's like a subtle difference, right?
Very subtle.
These energies, like one is very focused on the outside world, which I would deem the masculine.
Yep.
And the other is more focused on the interior realm, which I would deem the feminine. And in that interior realm, if you do have a balance of both in an individual, mm-hmm. and a man who has a balance between his masculinity and his femininity, and a woman,
at least an idea of it,
and a woman who has a balance between her masculinity and femininity, you have two assertive human beings who know what they want in life and will not settle for the titles given to them by society. So right. You may switch up in 5 to 6 years, and the man might sacrifice for the woman's line of work, and vice versa, in a balanced sort of way.
And therefore, it's not sacrifice, it's comply, honor, and respect, and morph.
Yeah.
It really isn't about the sacrifice when that happens, because there's a certain energetic intelligence, Michelle, that happens. And that was going on back in the 80s, where women were going to work, and there were house husbands, where all of a sudden men said, I'll stay home and take care of the baby.
I remember that. There was a movie. What was it? Michael Keaton?
Yeah.
The dad mom.
Yeah. I see it. And yeah. And also John Lennon. I mean, John Lennon said, I want a baby. And Yoko said, well, if you have it, you take care of it, because I'm going to work. And he became the house husband. He became the empathic, intuitive being. But it also really challenged his ego and his identity.
But it's a tag team, isn't it? It's kind of
it
like
really
you hit a high five inside your psyche, and you let another aspect of yourself kind of dominate for a while, whether it's the feminine in a man or the masculine in a woman.
So if we take the word dominant or dominate and soften it It's you're safe enough to be present.
Right.
And that's the word that right now we are having the biggest reaction to not having. We're not safe yet. And I give kudos, honor, bow to any and all the women that are finally standing up and saying, I'm not waiting for the man to make me safe to come out. I will develop my safety and take the hit and know who I am, remember who I am, wrap arms with other feminine and say, they're taking me down is in their mind, because I can stand up and remember who I am, stay honest with who I am, and not change the story because they won't listen. I mean, that's where all the payouts come from. I'm going to change the story because I've been paid off because they don't want to listen to what I'm saying, and I've been told to shut up. And
that brings me to the question that was given to me by our mutual friend.
Yes.
And her question was, you know, once you've done this kind of communion with yourself and you've gotten completely in tune with this feminine side of yourself. And what I mean by that is the creativity within you, the emergence inside that makes you either an artist or makes you desire to make things, makes your imagination come alive and want to assert itself in the world, in the material world. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is you have ideas, you have really great intuition about where to go in your career, so on and so forth. Or you may be interested in collaborating with a bunch of other artists on something, or maybe you want to bring something to work if you're working in business and you have a great proposal.
Do you know what you're saying? Do you
Yes.
hear what you're saying? No. You're giving birth.
It's about giving birth, right?
Exactly.
But there is a fear.
Yes.
And I'm going to call it that because that's how it kind of pops in my mind when I think about it. And the fear is not necessarily of rejection, but of suppression by the outside world. You know, it's like a fear, and a lot of women don't talk about this. It's like they don't speak of it. I've rarely experienced it because I'm so in my masculine that I just don't care about the kinds of reactions that others would have to my truth. So I'm a little less forgiving. But in general, there is a pushback. It's not like you have a platform out in the world that says, woman, speak your piece. And if
you're kitty.
and if there is a let's say a man, you know, that you want to work with or you're interested in working with, that human might actually be more attracted to the idea of dating you than what your ideas are. Mm-hmm. You know, you run into problems that a lot of men don't run into because they're in a position of either decide to receive or not, or shut it down. It's not an insult. But for a woman, if she in any way denies a man, you know, that move, all of a sudden there's this kind of unspoken tension between the two. And mm-hmm. So if you were perfect for working on this project that you were both, you know, really excited about, but now this idea that you had in your mind of dating me is now, you know, annihilated because I said, no, that's not possible. I'm not going to date somebody I work with. Then all of a sudden it's that kind of energy. And I'm just giving an example. There's also the idea of like when you do voice an assertive aspect of your feminine, you can kind of get shut down by the collective idea of where the woman's place in the world should be. And it's kind of, it comes in like an annoying shut up where somebody interrupts you in the middle of a meeting, a board meeting. They don't say shut up, they just interrupt you completely. and just ignore the fact that you were talking. Or it's like, you know, like Rebecca Solnit, mansplain things to me. Please, I really want to hear your view as if it weren't the only view in the room. So it's about like not having space in the world to express yourself safely. And that feeling, I think a lot of women don't talk about it, but it's there. There's this thing of like, oh, let me not be too friendly because he might like me, and I don't want him to like me because I'm literally just trying to get my ideas across. Let me be careful how I dress because I don't want him to think I'm into him. Like, these are the kinds of dynamics that women have to think about. Beautiful women have to think about in the workforce, or even outside in the world. Like, I feel like a lot of times men feel like it's their kind of duty to invade your space, even out of
right.
It's their right. But also at the end of the day, it's like this idea that men are taught that if you don't go get it, you'll never have it.
Right.
And so men are fetchers by nature. They have to go out there and will their manifest their destiny, as we all do. But they're on the side of courting. And it's been that way for a very long time. That dynamic is shifting now because of the Me Too movement and a new borders being set for that relationship. But I'm saying for women who are really in tune with what this feminine is saying, and they're trying to express the unquantifiable that people keep talking about, it's, you know, if you look at the museums, they're full of works of art by men. The rare times that you do see women, they're naked or it's a guy's view. Books, the same thing. Like, we're literally, this generation, like the last 3 generations, have seen the kind of freedom that no other woman has seen for like 5,000 years. And I think that a lot of men don't understand what that truly means. But the women feel it in their bones. They feel it in their blood. There's a calling to come out and express yourself. And to not have that platform, to be constantly shut down everywhere you turn by loud, space-consuming men, it can be intimidating. So I guess the question, the very long question I've been trying to pose, is how do you go about asserting yourself in a space where you can feel the restriction, the conflict, you can feel the pushback, and it's in the air. You don't even have to say nothing. You just know that the energy, it's an energy. You read it. You know when some guy rolls his eyes in a board meeting, you know what I mean? He's like, oh, here we go. And it's like, and it's not even a here we go, your ideas are not wonderful. It's here we go, I don't want to hear them. Right. You don't have the right to speak them. And I've felt that energy tons of times in my career. And I personally don't care because my masculine has taken over and I'm just like, yeah, whatever, dude. Hear the idea.
But it still affected you in your feminine, Michelle.
Huh?
It still affected you in your feminine. Because eventually you got fed up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look at, you know, it's hard for me to like express myself as a feminine creature now. Like, I don't even know how she moves anymore. I don't know how she dances.
So let's talk about this. In the beauty of what you're saying, and in the history of all these times that you're speaking of, one of the things that we as women, and our mutual friend here is young in her decades. So she is born of a time that already is in time with the Aquarian age.
Yeah, gender fluidity.
Where this willow comes in that can bend and move and be gracious and also be still and intense and direct. Mm-hmm. In that, she is already a precursor to what in the next 50 years, she has got her own machete cutting the way for what will come behind her. But what she is born into and of is that already the intuitive feminine understands permission to be. And the shock is, aren't you guys ready for me?
Yeah, it's like, wait, I get that. I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, like, who are you over there?
It's like all the empaths, like really feeling shocked by society saying the unacceptability.
Traumatized.
These women back in the day would have been burned at the stake. They would have been, you know.
They were.
And
they still are. You know, think about who's being, you know, torn down and who's standing up and who's being attacked. So let's go back to the willow, the reed, the grace. I'm belching. I'm sorry. That wasn't lunch. I take spirit in and it comes through me. I'm so used to it. So therefore, let me be really direct with in that femininity and masculine braid, and the undulation of it, which is very present in this human being, she is not clear how sexually sensitive and seductive is to the old guard.
Yeah.
And is shocked that that electrical current of the old guard, seeing, here it comes. I got it. I get it. I want it. And to hear
they want to possess it, and that's the
exactly.
So how do you even calibrate yourself so that you're not attracting that, you know? Or I don't.
Well, this is the truth. This is the truth, and I'm sorry to be blunt. You have to be wise enough to know that where you're going isn't ready for you, and to be ready for it not to be ready. And this is where we as women have to educate ourselves. Or I'm going into the den. I need to know that I'm going into the den and not assume the den has changed. I'm the change. And that is part of the hardship of carrying the burden of being of her generation, bringing in the new imprint, goosebumps on my goosebumps, to put the imprint out there. For those that have been severely imprinted with, if you move, you're asking for it. If you have perfume on, you're seducing me. If you want something from me, it's got.
I mean, why don't we all just dress in like, you know, orthodox like clothing and walk around like covering? Oh, wait, there's countries like that. Let me stop.
Exactly, still, and you die if you're not obedient to it.
Oh. So sad.
That is wouldn't the truth.
Wouldn't it be the most beautiful thing in the world to have like that kind of haven where women and men could just be who they are and prance around without being gawked at by power hungry humans who just want to own things? Like humans we're here to stimulate each other. Like, no, you don't own somebody. Like, your mother and father.
But the Piscean age does, Michelle. I am interrupting you. The Piscean age. We have to, you two are qualifiably at the brink of the next. Your generation coming in the 80s, you came in and it was the breakthrough because I was there in the 80s and my heart fell in love with a woman in the 80s. I'm a straight person.
Go Sandy, get some.
I got it. And
you're straight again though. You're married to a dude now.
I mean, you know, who's gay? So I mean,
that's great.
So therefore I'm talking about the heart. And in that heart space, my heart as a feminine, my heart is masculine feminine, and it's teaching me how my heart can go across the dimension of I am in love. I am not being loyal to an idea of something. I am shocked by what my heart and my physicality and spirit can contain and learn. Mm-hmm. And therefore, my heart had to teach me to adapt what I was confused by. My heart was able to cross gender into a place where something was so balanced, where I am not gay And therefore, it was okay for me to know I'm not gay. And yet there I was in love with a woman. And in that humanity of that honoring, I was honored by her as a woman who wasn't violated in our sexuality, but encompassed. And that's a marker. In the 80s, that became more expansive. In the 20s, homosexuality was
I call it
so,
the Big Bang Boom.
yeah. You know, I mean, Marlene Dietrich, she was on screen, you know, she was cross-dressing. And I mean, you know, and in the 70s, I got my uniform. I don't like my body. My body doesn't work in the feminine guard. So I, you know,
like an androgyny there.
Exactly. My uniform became jeans, go-go boots, and attitude. And, you know, New York, here I come. I was as far into Connecticut as you were into Jersey. New York had us all edgy. So there's that place where for how do we do this? First and foremost, I'm going to do it kind of like in time and space. When the hippie power came in and all the women grew their hair and their armpits and their legs were hair, everything else.
And got herpes.
I know. I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. Okay. And it wasn't that I didn't want to.
You were 40s, baby. You were that heavy, you know, like you were heavy in the that straightforward lifestyle, right? Working class parents, Catholic church, all that.
Yeah. But this is where we're going to talk now about energy. My energy, because I rejected the Catholic Church, my femininity said, up yours. And and it said it to the man in the confessional, not to Catholicism and God or Christ or the religion. It said it to the man that became the very man that was attacking the young girl, just like the question, what do you mean? I'm bringing to you my vulnerability. I'm confessing my sins. And you're judging me? And you're damning me? And you're not going to let me be with God and receive communion? You're holding me prisoner because of your mind? And I'm opened up here and offering myself to you? And that was where that feminine came in and went, wait a second, God and I have a relationship that no man should be standing in front of. Or because you know, so it's like, I want Jesus off the cross and I will walk partnership. I want to go heal with that dude again. I will own my sins. You don't have to die for me. You don't need to bleed for me. Thank you very much. And as a woman, I am willing to bleed and I'm willing to own. If I sin, I own it. This reminds me of the movie of Barbara Streisand in Nuts, where she said, if I'm going to sell my body, I am responsible. And in the 70s, that's what started happening. Responsibility, own who you are, be accountable, challenge the right to exist. And so again, back to this question, you need to, my love, my darling, my sweetheart, you need to know that you are on time in the wrong time with men and right on time for the formation of what you are about to pioneer for women and men. And you are the front line. And so therefore, in going to a meeting with these ideas and this creation and all this inspiration and this empathic collaborator, you need to know that you're talking to an archaic generation that is not willing to quite yet put down the sword because they want to assume you're attracted to them. They assume that only if they're attractive will they then even be able to listen to what you're saying. So it is actually their inferiority that is starting to escalate and come at you and go, let me see if I can give you a little muscle. Let me see if I can seduce you. Oh, she must like me.
And the thing is if you in any way, shape, or form raise the truth, because I've had this problem multiple times just with eyesight. just me looking at somebody and knowing their vulnerabilities in a room, I mean, it's a shutdown. It's like,
exactly.
if you show a person what they think of themselves, because it's coming from them, really.
It's the mirror, absolutely.
And so there's this thing where, like, if he feels in any way intimidated by you or shunned by you,
exactly,
it's this whole thing of like, so how do you find your own kind, at least then? If it's time to bring in new energy, then you need to be surrounding yourself with people who don't live in the old guard, people who are looking at tomorrow and saying, I want to be part of that.
Well, we're doing it right now. We're soliciting right now. We're right now sitting down, talking to the consciousness of those that are looking for this very conversation. We are doing it right now in knowing that I know this person is sitting right where the universe brought her, so that whatever's going on, this will strengthen and it will find its way. The hardship is it's going to take time, and the harder ship is to know that the karma for you to go through all the places you had to sell out, be sold, be dominated, be raped, be burned, be scorched, be imprisoned. You are now saying, I am so ready to leave that you're going to meet every one of the individuals that took you down, that raped you, that imprisoned you, that still feels that they can dominate you. And you have to be smart enough not to surrender out of concession to shit, I'm trapped.
And that energy that you're talking about is reincarnation, many, many lives of the suppression of the feminine,
right,
in many aspects of it,
right,
facing you today, in today's day and age, in the attitude of a person that you encounter in work, on the street, socializing with friends.
Right.
And so basically what you're basically saying to me, if I get it correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that in the approach, you have to remember that you're facing the 5,000 years of suppression.
Exactly.
And
the very person that's oppressed you.
And you're feeling the when you get those tingles inside where you feel like, holy snap, this has just shook my entire core. It's that power struggle in a conversation that you're having with a person. Then you need to take the high road.
Exactly.
When
you need to remember.
You need to remember and take the high road.
Exactly. Or to know that this is a walk where I've been here before. Don't panic.
And make the same mistakes.
My leg.
Oh, here I am. I got 10 babies. Where's that script I wanted to write?
Exactly.
I'm joking.
Exactly. It also means to remember that our intelligence is now giving us so much information. The red flags are already there. Do you know how many women have seen red flags, and then before you know it, the red flags became their blood because they didn't listen to, it's a red flag. I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. I thought they wouldn't do it. I was hoping
I've had tons of relationships like that where I think, that someone's way more evolved than they truly are. And
exactly.
Then the old face comes on and I'm like, whoa, I've seen this before. And I think my grandmother saw this. I think my great-grandmother saw this. This is lineage of suppression here. I'm out. Bye.
Yeah. And therefore, that is part of our walk with these relationships that we do in our soul, because here we go. My soul is not masculine or feminine. My soul is so supportive in me having every single experience. All of our souls are the compassion to have the experience and say, I will not judge you. I will bring you. Your spirit then is the arc, the energy, the light, the essence that says, I'm going to be represented by this light. This is how I will be seen. And if you're brighter than when you were annihilated, every enemy you have ever had is going to go, what was that?
Yeah, they're like moths to a flame, aren't they?
Yes,
It's
they are.
amazing when you're feeling super clean and confident in yourself and you're asserting your truth. I find that that's when you get hit on the most by
Exactly.
random
Exactly.
strangers. It's also
Exactly.
when you receive the phone calls from ex-lovers. Yeah, it's nuts.
Well,
How that works,
I've
huh?
been with you. I mean, I've been with you on the street where somebody goes, Michelle Rodriguez, and you go, no.
Well,
You
that's
deny.
different.
I know, but it's still you denying so that you're not seen by somebody that just assumes that they can barge in on you.
Yeah.
And the pushback is from you with, back up.
But you know what? I think that it's really intriguing to me. Like, I come from a generation where, we used to say so many bad words growing up in Jersey. Like faggot was a term that was used all the time. Pussy. Now, in my older years, I start to realize, man, pussy's the most powerful shit and on this planet for mankind. I mean, like, this thing gives life. There's nothing more stronger than it. But there are all these terms, that were okay. There was also behavior that was expected. I like to watch Bill Maher. I can, he's
He's brilliant. He's
a lot
brilliant.
a lot of my friends can't stand him because,
He's brilliant.
because he comes from a generation, where it's unforgiving. The kinds of there's no sensitivity, and
Right.
and I get that because, I'm more in tune with my masculine side. I needed it to survive and grow up and stay healthy and protect myself from the world. And so that aspect of me is very prominent, and it's a lot more forgiving to the past generations and their habits. So, like, it's intriguing because I feel like today, hi Hemingway, I feel like today, this new generation born in the 90s, these empaths, these gender fluid humans, these hypersensitive kids that every older man and woman is making fun of, they're the gateways to
That's
a
right.
future. They are drawing a new line of respect. And
They are literally the sacrifice.
well, they're saying, hey, this is the new line, man. Like
Right.
that old line, that's ignorant. That's
and it doesn't exist.
But they're clarifying its position in the grand scheme of where we are and what we know. I mean, information today, you couldn't get that in the 1960s, 70s, 80s. You couldn't find out what was really going on in Africa when it came to digging for resources. You didn't know that little kids are being taken advantage of to give you the battery in your phone.
Dirty little secret.
It's
dirty
no,
little secret.
There are no secrets now, and so like.
Exactly.
There's something to be said about the suffering of, like, the LGBT community, the men and women who, the hermaphrodites of the world, who don't feel like a man or a woman,
Right.
The androgynous ones who literally love both, who can go and kiss a woman the same way they can go and kiss a man because they know that they come from the same place. There is something really beautiful, fluid, and creative about this generation, and I'm gonna put my money on them and try to respect their rules and guidelines because, I think they're gonna have something really beautiful to show us about the future.
Well, I want to honor their bravery for being born into a civilization that is at that precipice of the end of the Piscean, where you have to be one thing and one thing only, and that is judged by a man or damned by a man. They are in this morphing where, you and I are in Egypt and we're looking at all these hieroglyphics. And
I love that trip.
It was spectacular. And it was, is that a man or is that a woman? Is that an animal or is that a human? They were seeing things that were like this, but even more in the shape shifting of spirituality to arc the animal of that my panther, Sekhmet, or whatever the gods were, to see that we're bigger than just what looks like to be human. And it goes into the collective of, I have a spiritual identity. I have a totem. I have a place, an altar that I bow at that respects me rather than expects me to be sacrificed at. And what is happening with the transgender right now for me is the beautiful thing of that time in society is coming back again.
So beautiful.
Where they can wear the feminine clothes.
That was Akhenaten, right? The
Yes.
really strange looking one. Like you couldn't tell he had like a feminine butt in all of the depictions on the hieroglyphs.
Breasts and everything.
Yeah.
You know, and that elongated, that body that was serpentine. So there's this beauty of how brave is it for a person to come in. Now, I would have been in my early 20s, starting my spiritual quest, when I was exposed to someone who knew a Jewish doctor down in Brooklyn that was doing transgender operations. And I went, excuse me?
What? That's unheard of. That's awesome.
Exactly. And it was all under hush, 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 hush. Now, that was as secretive back then, don't forget, in the 60s, as abortion. Anything to do with the genitalia was like,
God forbid.
Don't go there. You would be sacrificed, mutilated, and abortion was something that women had the respect and control over with herbs, with they knew what to do. It wasn't a law. It was a human nature knowledge. It was wisdom. If you can't feed a child, something, so something else is going on here where the male is, if I give you sperm, you have to have that baby.
Yeah.
Like, well, excuse me, what if the baby is saying, I don't want to be here?
Why doesn't he get a surrogate then? Why does he want to own a woman? Like, get out of town, man. Go have a surrogate, have your baby then. What's the problem?
Well, they did. They had mistresses.
This is 2020, man. Like, get over it.
Well, again, they had to go and pay their dues at the altar also. And they had their mistresses and they kept their secrets. And the mistress, when I first got divorced, I'll never forget this as long as I live. I mean, I was bent into getting married by my mother. I already had the abortion. So I thought the reason to get married, and it was illegal at that time. So for me to decide in my core, everything inside my feminine knew I was not going to have a baby. That was not my masculine. That was my feminine. Because I did not want that child to come into the masculine where there was so much abuse.
Yeah.
Every single aspect in my family that was masculine was physically abusive and laughed with, I was just kidding.
Yeah.
So there was nothing inside me that was going to do that. So to have an illegal abortion and risk my life was that feminine saying, I will sacrifice me as well. So whatever is going to go with, I am available to go with, but I will not bring this child into abuse. That's that cat. That's that thing. I will eat my young before you can, you don't get to
right. Yeah. Make it
exactly.
Yeah.
And then to know that there is this place in the feminine where it's like, let's give respect again to whatever the female really is. Are we only here to provide men with their children? Are we only here to be obligated to do that? The more sophisticated we became in our education, that's when birth control came in. We had the right to own our body.
Yeah.
We had the right to go in private to where our bodies can be respected by us, by men that knew that they had the honor to give you the respect without judgment.
You know what's crazy? It's like the most cosmopolitan cities in the world have the best rights for women, and they are the most economically productive places on the planet.
Exactly.
So, you know, economically, it makes sense to liberate your women.
Yep. That's
because when they get educations, when they assert their masculinity in the world, and they're able to be free to be feminine, you just get economic growth. I mean,
exactly.
just a byproduct of the liberation of the feminine. And so
Exactly.
it's really crazy, but like, you can travel to any cosmopolitan city around the world, and you'll realize that all these economic epicenters are like literally like driven by the mutual balance
Exactly.
of the two.
Yeah. And in the Nordic countries, in Finland and Iceland and all that.
I just got back from Norway. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're so sophisticated with, you know, I will have one child or I'll have no children, and we're going to do what we want. I'm not obligated. We don't have a tremendous amount of stuff because that's
they're ridiculous. Very logical up north. Let's just put it that way.
Very. I mean, they're practical.
Yeah.
The emotion in the feminine is not, I have to have abundance. It's like, no, I have to be efficient.
Yeah.
And beautiful. And beautiful. So there's this beauty of I'm going to come back to the question just for a moment, so that we all know that right now, everybody that's born in the past 10 to 25 years are on the front lines. You are the first. You're the ones with the guns. You're the ones that somebody says, forward, hope. You're in going, I believe in peace. And
the guns with flowers in them.
Exactly.
The 60s all over again.
Exactly. And you have to remember who you are, not just what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And that's the pain, because she already remembers what it was like to live in that type of a civilization. And she's back to be a part of the civilization as it returns. So in the respect of it, you are mourning what you already know was. And to think that you're born in a time where this hostile, masculine, seductive righteousness would say, don't outsmart me, don't not need me, don't belittle me and make me look like I'm not necessary.
I've broken all those rules.
Yeah, you have. Yeah. And so we have to remember that it's not easy, and grieve the loss of the familiar as we refamiliarize everybody else with what will be. And that's a hard road to walk. That femininity is a hard road to walk, because you are canvassing
in the world.
Yeah, you're canvassing a whole new territory, and you're canvassing the old guard. And you're canvassing
there's a comet coming for them.
Exactly. Ralph, it's Michelle.
Hi, Ralph. Ow! You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
I know it. She's like, wait a minute. I want my sofa. No, don't eat my, no. Oh. Peach dog is here. She wants my socks. She wants it all. I got to protect myself. Yes, love.
If you had to describe what
she got it.
What the feminine is in juxtaposition with the masculine, or in collaboration with the masculine, I know it's probably words. It's hard to.
It's energy, Michelle. It's energy. So let's go there, because you're doing a beautiful job of asking something that is difficult to describe. And why it's difficult to describe is because it's still morphing, and it's coming from two different directions with their identities so strong, so bonded to the concept of what was, and so much in desire to what will be, that instead of taking down one or the other, or dominating one or the other, we have to do our personal work. There's the Belgian. The personal work is that we find within ourselves a harmony, an agreement, a forgiveness, an acceptance, and the right to know that we have, well, the responsibility not to ask someone to provide for us, but to know that we can provide and then share the provisions. And that my masculine and my feminine are making this undulating braid, which is right up through the crown chakra, well, from the core, the root, up to the crown chakra. And instead of going either or, right brain, Ralph, right brain, right brain intuition. I am brilliant, qualifiably tested on my right brain as genius. On my left brain, I don't qualify to go to college. I have proof I've been tested. So therefore, in my left brain, I have been deemed unachievable, lazy, unable to spell, not sophisticated enough to go to college, to earn an educated experience so that I can go out into the world. I had
the left brain. That's mathematical. That's the math.
It's the scientist, right? It's the one that everybody on the planet decided is the only one.
Yeah, that's true. It's the dominating collective, respected part of the brain.
Exactly. If you can pass the test and you can remember what I'm going to ask you, you too can be honored with being smart. But what happens to us who over here, it's, and you and I have talked about this. I see you as a historian. You are a incredible historian. Your consciousness, your curiosity digs so deep into the history. You are a archaeologist of the psyche, of the soul. But
I love information, but and mankind, I'm super curious.
Yes, and so you have that capacity of the left brain to really go in and dig and learn and remember. Your capacity to remember staggers the heck out of me. And so, you know, and everybody, when we were talking the other day, and she goes, well, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that. Okay, you talk about that, and I'll just wing it. Because
selective memory.
You know, it's like you have the vocabulary of what you read in your intelligence, and I have an experience of what I've lived as mine. And so I pull from that experience because it's a wealth of the unconscious. It's a wealth of
wisdom. That's why I love you, Sandy.
And so only in this time of when we're returning to the feminine is this wisdom, or the desire to have this wisdom be the part of our education. The plants, the mathematician of astrology, the knowledge of knowing space is filled with life, whether we can see it or not. They're so smart, they don't let us see it. And if we do, wow, be honored. And to also know that there is a rapport coming up in our feminine right now to go to what is this, where we have to bow and honor that as survivors of our lives, we have done the best we could, even when we take ourselves down and forget we had to fight, to the point where we are only just the fighter. And that is the identity, and we've lost what we were protecting. This goes right back to the beginning of the show.
That's what happened to me.
Exactly.
I was so busy protecting that feminine and surviving that I completely lost that wonderful feminine creativity. I'm going to get her back.
Well, you forgot it. You forgot it.
Yeah, I know.
And it called to you. And that's the whisper of personal work. I mean, I want to honor Grace. You know, she waited for you to meet me. It's like, you know, when I heard the story, when can I get it, Sandy? You're not ready.
Grace.
You're not ready.
Grace is for those who don't know, Grace is my mentor and spiritual mentor. And she's walked me through a lot of really, really amazing evolution in my spirituality. And I was going through a really tough time. And in my, you know, the 27-year curse, I didn't die, but it was the return of Saturn. And, you know, I mean, like, it's excess. And if you don't leave your old toxic habits at 27, you could fatally lose life and or stunt yourself for the rest of your life. And so it was a really, really intense moment in my life. And I said, well, when am I ready to meet Sandy? You know, she'd be perfect to like solve my problems. And she was like, you'll be ready maybe around 40. I was like, what? Why do I have to wait till I'm 40 to meet Sandy? This is awful.
And Sandy knew Grace and didn't know Grace knew you.
That's the thing. You know, the thing about behavioral evolution is that, you know, a lot of people can be incredibly eager, but if your energy is solidified in a very hard-headed aspect of being, you can hear things that are wise being spoken to you, and you will not be able to listen to them.
Right.
Or understand them. And that's what Grace meant by making me wait to meet you. I'm glad she did, actually. I'm a lot calmer these days. I definitely.
Well, I would have whooped your ass.
Yeah, you totally would have. You'd have been like, I can't take this anymore. She's a monster, that one.
Like, you know, come here, kid. And there's that place where also, and we have to be very, 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 very respectful to, you weren't done trashing a lot of places within inside yourself. You were thorough. Yeah. You took every aspect of you and you worked it to the nub of that place inside you. So your stubbornness, your insistence to be honest, you're taking yourself to the cliff and the brink. You going, okay, I'm going to jump. And if something's not there, it was nice.
Yeah. And I think that's when she gave me your number.
It was like, oh shit, there goes Michelle. I better get her.
Quick, get her before she lands. That's going to be a hard one.
Over here. And we all do that. So I want everybody that's listening, and thank you for listening, to know that we do that. And it drives us mad because we wonder, is there a place to catch ourselves? And it is. It's in the integrity of who we are. When someone can see you, hold you, find you, and re-embrace you with yourself rather than disgrace you from yourself.
Yeah.
And that is really where the personal work, the spiritual work, the desire to go quiet or find harmony, the how do I belong, where do I belong? I just did a course this morning. I taught a class this morning on touchstones of the soul. And to really be able to go that, you know, where we have a place to rest is in our soul, not our mind, not our body. This is the thing that takes all the hits. And our soul, we have to be able to come back into that place and say, my soul has my wisdom. My soul has my back. This masculine, this feminine, if I do this and I embrace it, and I am both rather than either or, then I am self-respected by myself. And I think of Barbra Streisand when I think of this, because again, she's of my generation, where she's the first woman to stand up and go, I want this, I need that, I will do that. And she walked into a man's world and she was called all the names that they call
bitch. That's the number one thing they call you, is like a bitch, loud, feral. I've been called. Is just nuts.
You know, hard to get along with.
Hard to get along with, yeah. Why? Because I don't do what you want me to.
Yeah, and they will take you to that heat of defeat if you cannot keep inside you the knowledge that maybe I should step away from the enemy and embrace me. And so,
love yourself. I mean, Sandy, that was the biggest lesson you taught me. I had no idea. And sometimes it's unbeknownst to the person, you know, like I had absolutely no idea how much self-loathing was going on. There was a lot in there. And, you know, to kind of go in and really have a good look at that and face off with it.
So talk about that for a moment, because it was your feminine that called you, not your masculine.
Yeah.
Your masculine is what said, you know, Grace looked at your masculine and said, you're not ready. You're going to go in there and you're going to cut Sandy up and tell her she doesn't know anything. And I'll sit there and go, no, that's your blood, not mine.
Oh, snap.
So when the feminine does call us to do our personal work, people have asked me about this. My whole life, I have been in therapeutic situations my whole life. And the reason why I have done that to myself is because I needed somebody to reflect to me my own experience of expression.
Yeah.
Because, and this is where nobody in my world understood what I was saying. It was like, get over it. Get out of it. Let it go. What's your problem? Why are you going back? And I'm going, no. There's something happening here. And so I was denied the right to belong because I didn't fit in. And it wasn't that I was different. It was, I was finding out that there was another destiny for me. Nobody was right. Nobody was wrong. But I did not belong to the pattern that I was brought up to be placed in.
Yeah.
My soul was back here going, little girl, you're going to have some good times. You're going to have some bad times. You're going to really have some wonderful moments, and you're really going to suffer. And at my birth, in my conception, I decided to go, dig it, bring it.
Yeah, of course. That was your panther talking.
So, you know, and the magnificence of a life in hindsight is astounding. Mm-hmm. The elevation of life is one step at a time. Masculine, feminine, masculine, feminine. If you think about EMDR and the treatment that they're using now for post-traumatic stress, everybody in the world has post-traumatic stress. Getting through.
Are they using ketamine?
No. Well, they're doing all sorts of things, but I'm talking about EMDR, where they're taking in the rapid eye mode.
Oh, yeah, with the lights and all that, huh?
Yeah, with lights or tapping or whatever it is, the stimulation. It's the rocking back and forth from the left brain to the right brain,
wow.
So that the left brain can make peace with the right brain, that the right brain can bring wisdom to the left brain. The left brain is holding all of the memories of your karmic disaster, pain, and this and that, and is armored up to deal with it. The right brain is holding all the medicine, all the wisdom to say, wait a second, let me hold you. Let's alchemize. Let's integrate. Let me conceive you. I mean, in all due respect, you have given birth to yourself, Michelle.
Yeah. A lot of people look at those ancient sites, you know, like in Mexico and Chiapas or in Egypt, and they see the dismemberment of Osiris in Egypt, or they look at the dismemberment of that moon goddess, and they think it's a sacrificial thing. It is, but it's you're sacrificing an energy, not a person.
Exactly. And it's a dismemberment of that which is no longer necessary. And it's no different than having the phantom memory of your body. Any amputee will tell you their leg hurts and they haven't had one for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so our energy field has that much intelligence and memory from all of our incarnations. And you do not have to believe in incarnation to have a past life experience, because we're having lives that are actually now legitimately supposed to forget you had lives.
Yeah.
So that's part of the wisdom of forget, just be now. Just be now. Just be now. And then we're also having the lives, if we're living in the future. The woman that I was involved with came from the future in so many ways that it was hard for her to be in the attachment of being human. And I didn't understand that. Exactly. And so I didn't understand that until I went and saw Terminator. And I'm sitting in downtown Geneva you know, 6 o'clock, it's when the American movie comes on with American language. It's not, you know, and I'm watching it. It's like, and it wasn't when Arnold came back. It was when the other one came back, and I realized, oh my God, she's from the future. She's back here from the future because something from here, and I brought her to the movie. She was 23 years old at the time. And right at that crispness of, holy God, what on earth? And she was, everybody who ever saw Zari, God bless your heart, Zari, literally said she was so perfectly balanced that she was completely feminine and completely masculine. Everybody saw it in her. She could get dressed up.
Chemical marriage. That's what that androgen energy is, like David Bowie, or like.
Exactly. And I mean, she could wear glamour. I mean, from right off of, you know, Moochie Gucci Poochie and rock it, and or be a tomboy. Where I was kind of caught in like, I can't wear that. I have a more, I need my shoulder pads. I need a waist. I need my pants. I need my uniform. And it was beautiful how that's how my heart got to love the balance of something.
Yeah.
And where the crack came was when my morphing needed to happen and she needed to choose her destiny. But the imprint was, there was love that replaced pain. It replaced pain. And then she could see where she was going and defined the rest of her life, you know, beautiful. 30 years later. So there's that place of, we don't know what we're going through while we're going through it, but in hindsight, we get to see it and respect it and realize the perfection of our dilemma is literally the merging of the masculine and the feminine and the dance. And we're awkward, we're elegant, we're fragile, we're chaotic. It's just being human, because in the human is where we have to survive this incredible duality of our masculine and our feminine. And that golden serpentine energy is where we get to experience the spirit, the essence of our soul saying, oh my God, I can liquefy energetically and move fluidly and be aware of where I am, rather than to hope I don't have to figure it out and be attacked by where I'm not where I want to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. And that, I think that's important to talk about. So many times we're supposed to be, but it's not where I want to be.
Yeah.
And that's the feminine. The feminine brings us to where we're supposed to be. You're supposed to be born here. You're supposed to be conceived here. You're supposed to be brought up here. And the masculine says, I want to be in charge, and I've got an attitude, and I'm going to dispute this. And then the chaos starts. And what a golden opportunity to find out how. Let's do this for a second, because you are so masculine in your survivor, and you're so feminine in your discoverer. Because as you discover, your femininity is realizing that you have got to embrace your future with a whole other mindset than what you're used to. You know, and I'm so glad we had that talk just before we came on. That it was like, oh, let me download this information to you. In this beautiful way of the unfamiliar, your femininity has an intelligence that you're not used to receiving yet. So you want it the way your masculine is used to having it. Give me the script. I'll read it. I'll interpret it. Get out of my way. As a matter of fact, let me write the script. I'll interpret it. And then you can amplify the wisdom of your creativity. Right now, your feminine doesn't have a script. It has a pool. It has a incredible fluidity, a wetness, a place where what you will dream or what you will allow flow through you, has to be trusted rather than until seeing is believing. I'm from Missouri. I ain't going to do it unless I know it's going to get done, and it better be done by the time I want it done. Otherwise, I ain't going to do it. So it's that attitude of where's trust. I just had one of the most phenomenal conversations with my husband about trust, and in my own therapeutic digestion of, oh my God, if I give my need to feel safe to everybody else to make me feel safe, then I'm not safe at all.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be traumatized.
I feel that energy a lot now, more than ever during quarantine, where
exactly,
like I didn't realize like how much trust I give to the United States of America, where I live, where I'm a citizen, to the red light that stops other cars from running me over in the street.
Exactly.
To my understanding that people will respect the law and that I won't get robbed or killed or raped in the street when I walk it at certain times, because there's some dodgy times to walk. Just saying. Anyway, no, there's a lot of trust. And now that trust is kind of in the air. As you look around, you realize institutions and things that you relied on might not necessarily be as safe as they were 2 months ago.
Well, the structure is different. The familiar is different. The reliability of that will be there, so I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to look both ways. I can just live the life.
There's that thing where like there's still people getting up every day and going to work and providing groceries, and there's farmers getting up every day and pulling out crops and bringing them to supermarkets, and then there's people delivering, and there's people busting their butts at Amazon to make sure that people can stay at home. I mean, you got to disinfect stuff regardless, but I mean, at the end of the day, there is the creature that is the collective is shifted, but it's still moving.
We're back to grassroots. We really are, where the farmer is farming and not everybody has a farm, where the provider is providing and not everybody has transportation to do it. And everything is brought to the village, and we get to the village where the market is. When I lived in Europe, my daily joy was to get in a good comfortable pair of shoes, get my basket, go to market, get fresh food. We have become indulgent with, I can buy it, put it in the refrigerator, and then if it's wasted, I throw it out. I mean, if we are in this motif, it's we get it, we use it, and it's like we don't throw it away. It's like, hey, we have to have respect again.
Yeah, I like
that. And that's what's happening. We're starting to respect that. I'm uncomfortable with being confined in a space where I have to meet myself every day. I don't get to escape.
Just face yourself in the mirror. If I have to stare at myself in the mirror one more day, I'm going to go nuts. I'm going out that window.
And that's what we're doing. And we're also meeting the people we're confined with, because they can't just run away. They can't just go away. It's like, if you have a disagreement, it's like, guess what? They're just on the other side of the door.
The divorce rate in New York and Los Angeles just went through the roof.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's a wonderful opportunity, and I mean it. Mother Nature, Father God, whatever. And this is whatever you call it, creation. Somebody said, go to your rooms. I've had enough. If you won't respect me, I will respect myself. And things will go back to square one, and we'll figure it out. And we're all going to act out from any addiction that we are addicted to. Everybody is in withdrawal. I have gone to a treatment center for my emotional overwhelm. And when I was there, people are on drugs, people are on alcohol. And it's, what are you here? And I'm like, well, I'm emotionally overwhelmed.
Those are all the shadows that I work on in the mirror.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've been keeping those guys in check, and girls.
Yeah.
Some of them feminine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I want to talk about the shadow of my femininity when it was, this is in counter to the question, where when I went to work, I did have to look at, there's the boss and that's the guy that I have to get with in order to get whatever I want. So to be salaciously available was the quest. It wasn't like, and if I didn't like them, yeah, I'd say no. But if I wanted it, it was like, I got it. I've been a mistress. And also I was going to say way back
when. It's in the toolkit. It's in the toolkit, man. 5,000 years of training, baby. Yeah, I'm sure, man.
Oh, yeah. And there's that thing of, when I got divorced and went to therapy, what I said to my therapist was, there goes my husband, because he doesn't want to be married. He knew more than I. I thought maybe I could do it. He looked at me and he goes, you ain't going to be able to do that. And he knew it, and it broke his heart. So he literally, it was a disaster that he took on to get the freedom for both of us. And I, to this day, will honor him for that. But in the therapy, the therapist said, well, there goes your marriage. And I'm a marriage counselor, so you can't be here anymore. And I'm going to follow him, and in 3 days we're going to be in bed, and we're going to have great sex, and then we're going to be back involved with each other, and it's just going to be over and over and over again. You have to help me to get out of this. And so he talked to his team, and they said, yes, take her on. And then the next time he said, well, what do you want? I said, I just want to be adored. I don't need to be loved. I just need to be adored. I want to be somebody's mistress. I don't want to do the laundry. I don't want to cook. I don't want to have the babies. I just want to be adored. And my shadow to that, guess what it wanted? It wanted to be chosen for the wife. That's my bit.
Wow, that's hardcore, man. That's a ruthless bitch.
I mean, it was like, I wanted to tempt him to see how much would you want me to leave that, to come here and get this, and then that was my prowess.
Wow.
I mean, the shadow of that is profound, and we have to own that. So I understand that.
So what's it like when you come to that realization where you finally see the intentions of the inner, and you're just like, was it a shock to you?
It was humiliating to see that I was that selfish. It was important to see that I was that destructive to myself and somebody else's life, that I would be that reckless in order for me to have love or be chosen without the obligation of performing the feminine duties, that I would
hey, by the way, those aren't feminine duties.
You tell me.
Yeah, the new paradigm. We're relabeling that 50-50,
my
right?
Do laundry, thank God.
You wash, I dry. But go on.
Okay. So and in the therapy, this is a wonderful question, because that's when the first time I started to question, what the heck am I doing? How distorted am I that I would destroy a woman? And God bless, what is it? Glenn Close, I forget the name of the movie now, but it's one of my favorite movies, said when a woman strikes at another woman's heart, it's always lethal.
Oof.
Like a Scorpio. Exactly. That, or the snake. I mean, let's face it, we get called snake. Mm-hmm. And so that strike to, he's going to come to me and you're going to be home taking care of the kids. And that she would even walk in and look at me with the children. I'd go like, I'm not dangerous. I'm not dangerous. And be in the mystery of the shadow of the prowess of I am special. I am loved.
Was it like being in some sort of like some sort of like a haze when you're under a chant or something, or some sort of like it's almost like being a robot and then all of a sudden waking up out of it?
Well, enchantment is a really wonderful delusional elixir when somebody, I have been enchanted. Believe me, and I have enchanted. But that was also karmic, and we had to come to both of our knees in taking the spell off of each other and having the spell broken. And so that's, again, the karma of things. what that moment was for me was realizing how much pain my heart was in, that I would distort myself to have love, and that I would be lethal to a family and a man in order to be identified as loved. That was really the crux of starting my personal work. And to see, you know, I'm very lucky. I was there in the beginning of the 70s when personal work started coming in, and when, you know, Hay House started and all the New Age started. And I want to really say what this feels like to me. The New Age came right on time for me, and I was born to be a part of that new age, but I was more on time to be a part of the cracking of the psychological age, where personal work was now not to be a humiliation, but a self-discovery and an ownership of my credibility, to own who I am. So, and that's where I work with people. That's the formula of my work with people, is that, you know, yes, I'm psychic. Yes, I am intuitive. Yes, I do this deep metaphysical work, but it is for your soul to discover who you are, not to be told, oh, you're going to meet your twin flame, or you're going to be that, you know, that type of energy is for someone else to do. And so how I have developed the credibility for my experience is to be a human being that has gone through so many experiences that I'm not going to sit here and judge somebody when they come to me and say, well, I've sinned, or I've done this, or I'm ashamed.
I feel like you got nothing on me, honey.
Not much. I have.
Lay it on me. Oh, it's
so
been beautiful.
Thank you. And so my personal work is the mirror. The way you use the mirror, is the way I use my personal work within my own development. I have the mirror. I exploit myself by exposing myself to that place of being seen, reflected, and to go down. And as deep as you've had to go to be scoured, I go down to go scoured too. Right now, it's like, well, who is responsible for my safety? I am. Do I have it in control? We're never completely in control, because there are outside influences. And so we're safe until further notice. And even when danger comes, something else is there, something else morphs. And this is not to dilute in any way anybody that has died during this time, or had a loved one taking them, that's spirit, or that they're challenged. This is not about being elite and, oh boy, I didn't get sick, so I'm safe. I got, you know, and that's what I hate about the spiritual world in the New Age, where it was like, read this book. I'm belching now. I've got material here, where it's read this book and you have the solution. And if you have the solution, you're saved and you're spared and you get everything you ever wanted and you figured out. And the person next to you read the book and they ain't getting nothing but suffering. And it's like, what, didn't I read that paragraph? Didn't my vision board work? The New Age said, if you do this, you will have this. You'll be spared. When in truth, the New Age was about, get ready, because confrontation's coming. And in the middle of that came AIDS. I was there when the first person was diagnosed with AIDS. Talk about humiliation and shame. And talk about the need for collaboration and to elevate love and know that, oh my God, these people are dropping dead, so that there can be respect for having a choice of your sexuality and where you love. Mind-boggling. And AIDS is still here, but that pandemic was as mind-boggling, and everybody thought, well, I'm I'm straight, so I'm not going to get it. And they found out, oh wait, it gets through needles. Oh wait, you know, it's like wherever it attacks, you feel, am I a part of that? Then I'm on the rally for it. If it's not, I don't have to worry about it. It's somebody else's problem. So we have to look at our own engagement here. And where I got to learn some great dignity about humanity was when I worked with hospice with AIDS patients. And when they started to give the right to die in Santa Barbara, where they quietly, illegally, quietly said, with dignity, if you choose to agree that you don't need to suffer anymore, skin falling off. I used to wash the bathroom floor of the skin. to see the sores consume their body and distort them, to see their presence. I mean, AIDS was an amazing time. You couldn't not see somebody with AIDS. And like, whoa, how do you get it? And it was the same thing. Don't touch, don't kiss, don't have sex, don't love. You're untouchable. A profound time for the feminine, because men with the feminine energy were the ones attacked and damned and crucified as men because they were effeminate. I mean, there's so many ways to talk about this or find this and see that they were the archetype then that was bringing sexuality to the forefront and saying, I'm going to publicize it. I'm going to do it. I mean, the clubs, the discos, the underground, all that stuff. And then to think that somebody said, wait a minute, I've got a disease, and what is it? And it was called the gay disease until it got smart enough to go, oh, it's a blood disease. And then they found medication, and now they're a little bit reckless again. You know, the children that were not there in the 80s, I mean, we're talking 40s, how many years? 40 years out. And it's like, I don't have to worry because they've got the cure.
Well, yeah, I mean, they take PrEP and stuff and think that it's going to prevent them from getting a whole slew of other sexually transmitted diseases, but it's not true.
It's not true. So we still have to be accountable.
It protects kids from AIDS and stuff, but like, you know, it doesn't protect them from getting all the slew of other things that they can get.
Well, life and death, no matter what.
Yeah, man. I think life in general is a weighed risk. And so you need to choose, you know, how much of that you're willing to put out there. And you know, once you do it with love and harmony, and try to be as balanced as possible and respectful. Try not to step on anybody. I think you'd be all right. But, you know, it is what it is. You can't control outside factors. All you can control is what's happening inside you.
No.
Right?
And to know that we can't live in the disillusionment that if we speak our mind, somebody has a mind that's going to speak up against us. It's just the yin and yang. It's just the right and left. It's just the light and dark. You know,
that yang's overwhelming. You know what I mean?
Right now, you know, and I want to say that because we are at the end of the Piscean age, Michelle. So every single masculine energy, entity, edifice, whatever it is raising their psychological
fist.
Thank you.
Psychological fist.
Yeah, I was going to say dick. So.
It's okay. It's not the 50s anymore. You could say it.
No, I know. So, I mean, for a spiritual person, I am
all right, baby.
Colorful.
Oh,
and there's that broad in me. So there's that place where this phallic symbol is the phallic symbol of saying my might is right. My, you know, I'm taller than you, I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, I'm mightier than you, and you will not take me down. When in truth, that might is going brittle and it is collapsing. We're watching. Yeah. And it is this at home bringing some type of sanity to ourselves as we feel insane and coming back out. And we have the choice. Do we do it the way it was, or do we find another way to do it? And something in this collective intelligence by us coming home is giving us a chance to be more compassionate about something else.
Yeah, global reset.
Exactly.
And I hope, you know, the tendency to go back to old habits. I've known it to be very, very strong. It took me like 3 years just to clear out all my old habits, you know.
Withdrawal's very difficult.
Withdrawal's gnarly. And I think a lot of people, you know, it's crazy, but there's a lot of people without work right now. When you're living in fear of what's going to happen the next day, and you know, it can become really rough not to go back to old habits.
Well, I think we can go back to making a living, but how do we respect each other as we go there to do it? Do you wear the mask? Do you respect the distance? Do you know that we have to work with kid gloves? In the same thing it was with AIDS or with polio or with chicken pox. You know, there are people that went in there and they found out that, what do? You have to stay attentive. If you're reckless, you are reckless. If you're respectful, then we can navigate this. We can navigate it. So I'm shocked when I go to the grocery store. I get hypervigilant, and I've had, oh man alive, I've been put on a couple of times in my this past couple of days to find out where I am with. We had somebody, God bless their life, in my little village die right down the street.
No way.
Oh, the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I went, isn't that interesting? I'm sitting here on a hill in the middle of the woods, you know, a little country town, and it comes to my door. And I walked into the post office the other day, and you know, doing a favor, doing something, getting stuff. And all of a sudden I said, gee, I'm so sorry that you know, somebody in our community died. And the post person with the mask and the guard and the door closed said, yeah, the wife was here today. And I was like, what? The male, her husband died, she had it. And now I'm standing in a 9x10 area where the disease could possibly be. And I thought, what did I just do? Where did I go? What did I sacrifice? I had on my gloves, I had on my mask, and I had to look at my worry. And when I came home a day later, Michelle, I realized, because the woman at the post office said, she said, I'm so sorry for your loss. And the woman broke down and wept uncontrollably. It was one of the first times she was out of her own quarantine and was held in the space of acknowledging her loss. Part of my overwhelm was I, as an empath, picked up her overwhelm.
Wow.
And my compassion came in for her, rather than am I going to be sick? Did I just set myself up? Did I just pollute myself? It was like, no, I stood in the psyche, the heart, the male, the female, the presence of life and death. And I'm being asked to access compassion. Compassion. And all my angst went away.
Yeah.
And that was, I wasn't fight, I wasn't flight, I wasn't being, but I had a process I had to look at. And that was, you know what? I have to own my own. I went into that out of choice. I stood there out of choice. Why would my soul go there that day? Why would I present myself with this that day? What responsibility do I have for putting myself in that environment? And it was, there's the shivers. It was so that empathically she was not alone.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And that I need to own it and to hold it and not resist it.
I think we need reminders. I know I do anyway, every day, of how to react to fear and doubt. They're pretty big right now and very haunting, you know. I love you, Sandy. Thank you so much for our talk.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I love you.
I hope people get some insight about the feminine from you. I know I have throughout the years, and I'm super grateful that you did this talk.
I am grateful that you were ballsy enough to do it.
Yeah, I know, man.
And feminine enough to be as feminine as you are. And I'm grateful that I'm part of your Trinity, Michelle. I mean, when, you know, to see your other interviews with your teachers, to know that I am the feminine, that I'm part of the Trinity, that's divine intervention in a way that, you know, who am I to be aligned with you? And so everybody knows, when you first came to me, thank you for that look.
What the hell are you talking about?
Well, that's whatever that is. But it's so funny, because one of the things that happened when you came and we were together, it was like, I know of you, but I didn't know you, because I wasn't that masculine to go to the jock movies.
Yeah. So funny.
And yet, this is very important, and we can end up on this. When my feminine was tortured in a moment of crisis within my own marriage on Valentine's Day, in my first year of marriage, it was honestly innocent, but it struck me at my core. Something happened to me, innocent from my husband, innocent in the dynamic, but it struck something inside me to my 5-year-old and she was going to run away. She had to run away. My masculine came out and said, I'm going to protect myself, I'm going to do all this other stuff. And I got into my car, and interestingly enough, I went to the restaurant where this danger met me. And as I was walking in, Ken Burns, the documentarian who lives in the Village, intercepted.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, he lives right downtown here in Walpole. He went, Sandy. And I turned to him, and he literally caught me and intercepted me and took me into his arms and gave me a hug and gave me a kiss, hello, and we chatted. And he detoured me from my rage. But he brought me into that beauty of, no, be soft, be supple. And then I went into my car and I thought, oh, just go home. And my 5-year-old sat in the driver's seat. And it was like, can't go home. She drove me for 2 hours into another part of New Hampshire, or at least an hour and a half, to the point where I went to an IMAX theater and I thought, I'm going to go see that movie. What's that movie? What is that movie, Michelle, that you're in? Cameron?
Avatar. No way. That's a good escape from rage.
That's right.
You go to the heart of nature.
Exactly. Not knowing what I was going to, but knowing there was it wasn't around anymore. There was no movie theater. And I looked, where can I get it? Well, I can get over to Manchester, New Hampshire.
That's beautiful.
And I drove all the way and I got into the amphitheater. I was one of the first people getting in. I said, oh, good, it's not crowded. And I'm sitting there as people are flocking in to see this movie, not knowing you're in it. And I'm now surrounded, a man here and a man there. And I'm sitting there literally like, if they breathe on me, they're dead.
Your 5-year-old is so ruthless.
So ruthless. And then I watched this and I've got my, my glasses on and all this stuff is in the air, the 3D, the whole thing. And those little floaty things are floating around. Yeah, and who comes in but this character babe with the arms and the whole thing. And it's like, you're so right there. And this is where I was introduced to you. Interestingly enough, this is where my soul was taken. When in its vulnerability, it was so completely vulnerable that it brought me to a place where that movie spoke to something. Your image became something. And it's the way I know you in your feminine and your masculine, because in that movie, you were both.
Really?
And in your... Oh, good God. When you were in the helicopter saying, look at this, look at this, look at this. You weren't the masculine driving the helicopter. You were the awe of the eyes of telling them, look at what you're seeing. Look at the blessing we're in. You knew what it was. And then you fought to defend it and you sacrificed yourself for it. All those things are etched in my psyche and my soul, Michelle, as the healing for me. Not knowing I would be sitting with you, 15 years later. So there it is. Time, a 5-year-old had to wait until she was 50-something years old to go to the movies to see this brass ass up there kicking ass and be the amazing gift to my soul that would bring us here to talk about the gift of being feminine.
That's awesome.
What else can you ask for? The wowism of it all.
Yeah. I love
So
Sandra.
if anybody wants to find me, let me just say, go to sandraharrick.com. And my website is not as active as it could be, but I don't have a left
You're
brain.
hilarious. Screw technology.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
here. And thank you. What do you want to say to close it?
I'd say if you want to link up with Sandy, don't bombard her. I love her. Go to Soul Awakenings. And nothing. I hope that you got some beautiful feminine insight from this well of wisdom that I call Sandy. And nothing much, man. I love you.
I love
so
you.
much
Thank you for letting me ramble on.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Bye, Sandy.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, love. Bye-bye.